Hey everybody, welcome back to Bible Fun with the Duns. Today we finished up 1 Chronicles in chapter number 29, so let's get started.
Okay, so whenever we read through 1 Chronicles 29, it feels like we're finishing a book, but in reality, 1 Chronicles and 2 Chronicles were originally one book. They were written together by Ezra. Ezra is writing all of this. By the way, what you'll find is that these historical stories that we've got, when you end 1 Chronicles 29, it tells you all the people involved with making sure all these stories were written down. You had people like Samuel, you had people like Nathan and Gad the seer, obviously Ezra in this one, and a lot of these guys are moved of the Holy Spirit to write down these stories so that they're not just a historical record. They're also the counsel that God gives his people through the generations. And so as God moved in David's life, now we get to read that and we get to see what God did, because what God has done is proof of what God can do. Now, when we read through this last chapter of this one section, we're seeing how in chapter number 28, God chose Solomon. Remember, God chose Solomon over all the sons of David, and David over all the sons of Jesse, and the sons of Jesse over all the people of Israel and all the tribes, the Judaic tribe that Jesus comes from. All of this is chosen. And so now what we're recognizing is that even though David and his descendants will sit on the throne, this is not a kingdom of their own making. They were chosen, which means this is God's kingdom. But notice what it says when it talks about Solomon. He says in verse number 1, "My son Solomon, whom alone God has chosen, is young and inexperienced, and the work is great." So what's the work they're going to do? They're going to be building the temple. In this chapter, what the Lord is saying is that Solomon may be the king, but he's also young and he's also inexperienced, and there's going to have to be a lot of growth and a lot of faith that's being developed in here. It also meant that, like the temple, Solomon himself was not a finished product yet. And there would have to be a lot, you okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. There would have to be a lot of stuff that kind of went on to grow, to build the temple, but also build Solomon. This would not be, remember, they're building a temple. Temples and big monuments are usually to living people. So in the ancient days, kings wanted to build buildings and they wanted to build massive monuments to let the world remember that they were there. But the temple is not supposed to be this way. The temple is not going to be a monument to David or to Solomon or to Israel. The temple was going to belong to God. And this is incredibly important. What's interesting to me, I like verse 5 when it says, "Who then is willing to consecrate himself this day before the Lord?" So David is preparing for the temple to be built, and he's giving up massively of his own personal wealth. But he's also inviting anybody else to give of their own wealth to the Lord. And he says, who wants to be part of this? This question is one that really is a question for all generations. Who is willing to consecrate himself before the Lord? That's a question we don't just ask back then, but we ask of ourselves today. Am I willing to set myself aside and say, I am for the Lord's use? That's an important thing. Jackson, what was your takeaway from this?
Okay, so basically in this chapter, so they've set apart like a whole bunch of money that they're going to put towards this temple, but also David and a lot of the priests and other like people in Israel, they've also like given their own money and their own personal wealth in like building the temple. And so this is like really good, I guess you could say it's like symbolism for like what we should do in our own lives. Because obviously we didn't do nothing to earn money on our own or anything. Everything was given to us by God, and it's all from God. We're all managers of everything that he gives us. And that doesn't go for physical things either. That's also stuff we're good at and just things we do and places we're placed in. And so all those things that we have that are given to us by God, we need to use them for God and offer them back up.
I like that. I think the key word in all of the giving that they did and then the worship service that broke out is the word willingly. Mm-hmm. Some translations say freely, which I like willingly better, but freely sounds cool because it's like this. It's that they're giving freely, but giving wasn't free. Like they showed up and they gave what they had, and they left poor, but they left joyful. And what David is saying is the reason that they were leaving joyful in the presence of the Lord, even though they had just sacrificially given, is because they were recognizing that nothing in their life was really theirs. And here's the reason is because their lives were temporary. And so if I hold on to a $10 bill all of my life, one day I'm going to die and somebody else is going to get that $10 bill. That may be here, but I'll be gone. So was it ever really mine to begin with? Is anything really ours if it can be taken away or lost without our permission? Probably not. And what do we have in this world that can be taken away from us? Everything except for our relationship with God. Which means that primarily all we have is Him, and He supplies all we need, so that when it's time to serve Him, we give Him back what is already His. I like how thinking about what Ezra and his people heard about this, because like verse 7 where it says all that they gave for the work of the Lord, the house of the Lord, 5,000 talents and 10,000 derricks of gold. This is a little side note. A derrick was not something that David and his people spent. It was a coin. It was a Persian coin. A derrick is a Persian coin. Well, what did Ezra's people? That was the money they were using. And so now Ezra's people are going, hold on. They've historically given to God what they had, and now they're thinking, I can give of myself too. Now, I like how it ends in verse number 22. It's this worship service. It says, and so they ate and they drank before the Lord with great gladness on that day. I think we don't look at worship the way the Bible presents worship to us. We often think of worship as so reverent that it's dry and so serious that it's not allowed to be fun. But that's not how the Bible presents it. So they ate and drank before the Lord with great gladness on that day. I'm telling you, I think our spiritual life ought to be, and I think we would be blessed by viewing it with more joy, more gladness, and just more fun and enjoyment. And so today, as we think about our relationship with the Lord, let's ask this. Are we willing to set ourselves aside and say, we're only His? Use me, Lord. And in the process of using, help me to enjoy doing it. All right, we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll enjoy that time as well. All right, we'll see you then. Bye.